Many of us grew up watching cartoons as kids. The ones that come to mind are Tom and Jerry, Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, and a ton more, really. One of the most iconic animators that really changed the world of animated television shows and entertained millions of fans worldwide for much of the 20th century was Joseph Barbera. He was born March 24, 1911, in New York City. New York would be where he would grow up, attend school, and begin his career. He showed artistic talent very early on, drawing pictures as early as first grade. Barbera became interested in animation after watching Disney's The Skeleton Dance. During the Great Depression, he tried to become a cartoonist for several magazines and was turned away. His single cartoons later began being published in Redbook, Saturday Evening Post, and Collier's. He began taking courses for art at the Art Students League of New York and the esteemed Pratt Institute. He was later hired to work in the ink and paint department of Fleischer Studios. He would bounce around from studio to studio throughout his young adulthood. In 1932, he joined Van Buren Studios as an animator and storyboard artist. In 1935, Barbera attempted to create a storyboard about a kangaroo character and presented it to Paul Terry, a former animator in the studio. Terry declined to produce the story. Barbera later stated that he was not the least bit disappointed. He had proven to himself that he could do an entire storyboard by himself and gained experience in presenting it. For him, at that time, that was enough. In 2013, the Barbera family sold this storyboard at auction for over $21,000. Upon the closure of Van Buren Studios in 1936, he transferred his employment to Paul Terry's Terry Toons studio. However, in 1930, he moved to California to work at MGM Studios. This was during the Great Depression, and the depravity of LA was just as bad as Brooklyn, to the point he nearly returned back to New York. But Barbera's life would soon forever change. At MGM, he met William Hanna. They worked alongside some of the most famous animators in the business, like Tex Avery, who created Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. In 1940, Hanna and Barbera directed Puss Gets the Boot, which was nominated for an Academy Award. The studio wanted a diversified cartoon portfolio, so despite the success of Puss Gets the Boot, Barbera and Hanna's supervisor, Fred Quimby, didn't want to produce any more cat and mouse cartoons. He believed there were already enough cartoons of those in existence. Surprised by the success of Puss Gets the Boot, Barbera and Hanna ignored Quimby's resistance and continued developing the cat and mouse theme. Hanna was extremely loyal to the Herman and Ising studios, who did not want to continue the cat and mouse cartoon. Hanna-Barbera reached out to Quimby, who greenlit the cat and mouse cartoon idea, so the team later left for Quimby to start a new animation unit independent of Ising. This was the result of one of their most famous and successful creations, Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry had complaints on the excessive violence because they relied heavily on the animation rather than the dialogue. This was largely in part due to World War II looming in the near future. Ultimately, Tom and Jerry were nominated for 14 Academy Awards and won 7. This was the first cartoon to feature the same characters repetitively in history to win that amount of awards. Quimby accepted each Academy Award for Tom and Jerry without inviting Barbera and Hanna on stage. The cartoons were released with Quimby listed as the sole producer, following the same practice he had condemned Ising for doing. In 1955, after Quimby retired from MGM, Hanna and Barbera were placed in charge of MGM's animation division. The studio soon realized that rerunning old cartoons was more profitable than creating new ones, and ordered Hanna and Barbera to close down the animation division. They had to lay off all the employees via phone call. In 1957, MGM dissolved, and these two men made the leap to create Hanna-Barbera, which became the most successful television animation studio in the business. These two men were very different from one another, and as a team, they brought the best each had to offer. Barbera was a skilled gag writer and sketch artist. Hanna was gifted at comedic timing, story construction, and business practices. When naming their business, they tossed a coin to determine whose name would go first in the title, hence why it's Hanna-Barbera and not the other way around. The two established themselves with 2 successful TV shows, The Huckleberry Hound Show and The Yogi Bear Show. In a survey conducted in 1960, most of the viewers of Hanna-Barbera were adults. This prompted the creation of one of the most quotable, infamous, and satirical cartoons, The Flintstones. This placated adults as well as children. This became the first primetime animated show to be a hit. By the late 1960s, Hanna-Barbera Productions was the most successful television animated studio in the entire business, producing over 3,000 half-hour animated shows of nearly 100 different cartoon series. In the 1950s and 60s, TV programs had a significantly lower budget, putting a lot of animators, studios, and productions out of business. Hanna-Barbera was a key aspect in the development of the limited animation techniques. This reduced the quality of the animation at a more cost-effective production. To reduce cost, shows often focused more on dialogue rather than the animation. In a 7-minute animation, there used to be close to 14,000 frames. They cut that down to maybe 2,000 frames. The company decided to do a rapid background change to make it more visually interesting. At the time, critics criticized this change, to which Barbera responded that their choice was to adapt to the television budgets or change careers. This change allowed Hanna-Barbera to stay in business when all of the other studios were failing. This technique is still used in some modern cartoons. Don't believe me? Rewatch The Simpsons, South Park, and even SpongeBob SquarePants. These cartoons use limited animation techniques. In 1966, Hanna-Barbera was sold to Taft Broadcasting for $12 million, but they remained co-heads of the company. The company sold again in 1991 to Turner Broadcasting System for $320 million. Turner began using the Hanna-Barbera cartoons for its new Cartoon Network cable channel in 1992. By the mid-90s, Hanna-Barbera was creating several original series for the network. Remember Dexter's Laboratory and the Powerpuff Girls? Those were original Hanna-Barbera ideas. In 1996, Turner would merge with Time Warner, the owners of Warner Brothers. Again, both men stayed on board as advisors. In 2001, Hanna died of throat cancer, and Hanna-Barbera was fully absorbed into Warner Brothers. Without his partner, Barbera remained active as an executive producer for Warner Brothers. While the pair were extremely different, they were still friends. And I do think this is reflective in their cartoons. Everyone had a friend that was quite different. Fred and Barney, Dick Dastardly and Muttley, Tom and Jerry, Scooby and Shaggy, and Yogi and Boo Boo. These may have been a reflection of the close business friendship and partnership that Barbera and Hanna shared for over 60 years. Barbera once said, "We understood each other perfectly, and each of us had deep respect for the other's work." Hanna once said that Barbera could capture mood and expression in a quick sketch better than anyone he'd ever known. Overall, we simply can't imagine Hanna without Barbera, and these cultural cartoons that shape generations of children live as classics. December 18, 2006, at the age of 95, Joseph Barbera died of natural causes. He left a legendary library of animated television shows that are enjoyed even still. His perseverance and persistence in creating what made him happy inspires me. When he wanted to create something and was told no, he would create it anyway, and he believed in his vision and fought for it. It makes me believe that if you have an idea that is strong enough, make it happen. If you need to leave a comfortable situation to make your dreams happen, it is well worth the struggle to create your own success. Hey puppers, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out our Facebook page for news, memes, and sneak peeks to future Pupcorn content. Toodles!